All right, so we're going to work through this example problem. It is set up for a middle school way of solving it by doing it by hand. You don't have to do that anymore. Make your life so much easier. So I'm going to show you how to do this on a TI-83. I haven't figured out how to show my screen on my video yet, so I'll get you a Desmos video at some point, but for right now we'll just go through using the TI. All right, so you already know the first couple steps, and if you lose track of me in this video, this is what's printed on the front of your packet if you need to go back and look at that. All right, so you want to hit Stat, Edit. All right, I've got stuff in my calculator, so to clear it, remember you arrow all the way up, press clear and enter, or clear and down. Either way, it gets rid of everything. Okay, so what you want to do is put all of your data from right here in L1 only. All right, y'all have heard me say this a million times. Proofread. Make sure you typed it all in correctly. Okay. All right, so once you do that, the steps are pretty similar to stuff we've already done. You want to hit Stat, Calc, and then you want one variable stats, so that's the new one. And press Enter. And we get all this crazy stuff here. All right, and if you look down at the bottom, that little arrow right there tells you to scroll down and you can see more stuff. On the front of your packet, I gave you definitions for some of these symbols. Some of them I didn't because we don't use them and I was just running out of time, so I didn't worry about it. But if you, the ones that you need to know for our class, those symbols are printed on the front of your packet. All right, so scroll down. And the very last things you get are your 5-number summary. So there's your minimum. There's your Q1, your median, your Q3, and your max. So much easier than drawing it all out in order and drawing your lines and all of that. All right, so down here at the bottom, we're gonna go ahead and fill in what we know. So your box plot, so your minimum, number 1 is your minimum. 2 would be your Q1. 3 is your median. 4 is your Q3. And 5 is your maximum. I know that's off the screen, guys, so that's maximum. All right, so the numbers that we just found off of our calculator, I'm gonna fill in right here in the box. So our minimum was 1, our Q1 is 2.5, our median is 4.5, our Q3 is 8.5, and our max is 17. All right, down here on your scale, it's a little hard to read, but each one of those is 1. All right, so to make a box and whisker plot, this is not something we're going to test you on this year. So we're just kind of reviewing what all these steps are. Basically, box and whisker plot is 8th grade curriculum. What we're gonna ask you to do is we're gonna ask you to make comparisons between box and whisker plots. What do you notice? What's the difference? That kind of stuff. So you're gonna need to be able to use the terminology. So we're gonna go through right now and just make sure that you know where those are and all of those labels. So if you have to compare them, you can sound intelligent when you're doing it. All right, so your minimum is 1. Q1 is 2.5. There's not a 2.5 mark on here, so it's not going to be perfect. Just do the best you can, get in between 2 and 3 and make a dot. Same thing for 4.5. Just make sure it's in between 4 and 5. Same thing for 8.5. All right, and my 17 is going to be way the heck off the side. We can't quite see it. All right, then you're going to draw your box around your middle 3. Draw a line through your median, and then draw lines out to your max and min. Draw in your whiskers. All right. So now let's go about talking through some of those vocabulary terms that we talked about earlier that we need to calculate. So your calculator will give you your 5-number summary. What it won't do is do the range or the IQR. You're going to have to do that yourself. All right, so your range is the biggest value minus the smallest. So 17 minus 1 gives us 16. And then our IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So that's 8.5 minus 2.5. And so that gives us 6. All right, now, remember I said that we were talking about outliers. So outliers are different this year. What you guys would do before is you would just kind of look at your data set and you'd be like, that number's bigger than everything else. It's an outlier. Or that number's smaller than everything else. It's an outlier. You can actually mathematically quantify it. So that's what we're going to be doing this year. And basically what the formula does is, the way I think about it is, I think about a data set as a backyard, and your outlier formulas give you the fence. And they tell you how far the fence goes around that backyard. And if your data points are outside the fence, then they're outliers. If your data points are inside the fence, they're not. They're good. So the formula for those, they gave it to us in words right here. It's number 1.5 times the interquartile range less than Q1 or greater than Q3. All right, so what you're looking for really is this. These are your two formulas, and this is something you're gonna have to memorize. Sorry, that's one of the ones you just gotta suck it up and learn them. All right, so this is gonna take us through a step at a time. All right, so it says first find 1.5 times the IQR. Well, we just found the IQR, it was 6. So we gotta do 1.5 times 6, which gives us 9. All right, and then we're gonna do Q1 minus that, and then Q3 plus that. So Q1 was 2.5, so we're gonna do 2.5 minus 9. All right, and when we do that, we're gonna get negative 6.5. All right, and then our other fence, we gotta do Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So Q3 was 8.5. So 8.5 plus 9 is gonna give us 17.5. So what we need to look is we need to go back and check our old data set and see if any of the numbers are outside those fences. So if we're thinking about this on a number line, all right, we've got our low outlier fence right there and our high outlier fence right here. And what we're looking for is, do we have any data at either end past those two numbers? If we do, then they're an outlier. If we don't, then we don't have any. So looking back at that data set from the page before, we're down here. So do we have any numbers that are smaller than negative 6.5? No. All right, so we don't have any outliers at the low end of the outlier fence. Do we have any numbers that are bigger than 17.5? And we don't. We're really, really close. 17 is almost an outlier, but it's still within the fence. It's right up. So if we're using my backyard analogy, it's standing there looking over the fence longingly at the rest of the yard far away. It wants to jump the fence and play, but it's not there yet. So for this one, we don't have any outliers in this data set. All right, now dot plots. Y'all have done this since elementary school. You did them with stickers back in kindergarten, so I know you guys know these, so we're just gonna kind of skip through this real quick. Dot plot shows the number of televisions owned by each family in a neighborhood. Use this dot plot to answer the questions below. All right, so each dot is a family. That means we just need to count up how many dots to figure out how many people live in the neighborhood. So there's 12 here, 8 here, 3, 6, 1, 0, and then 2 on the end. So now we just got to add all those up. So 12 and 8 gives us 20, 23, 29, 30, 32. So 32 families live in the neighborhood. All right, for the next one, it's asking how many families own 3 televisions. Well, we just go to the 3 and see how many there are. And we already counted, so there's 6 families there. All right, and then the last one's asking what percentage of people own either 1 or 2 televisions. All right, so 1 television, there's 8 families. 2 televisions, there's 3. So altogether, that's 11 families. So we need to figure out 11 divided by 32 times 100. I'm doing that because it asks for percentage, not total amount. All right, so 11 divided by 32 times 100 gives us 34%. And you can, if you want to be a little more exact, it could be 34.4%. If you just want to stick to a whole number, 34%, either way. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is histograms. This is something that you may or may not have talked about in middle school. It seems to be kind of hit or miss when I see this. So we're talking about assuming a Starbucks or could be some other fancy coffee shop, insert your favorite here. And it's a chart talking about the number of cappuccinos they've made per hour. All right, so the first part is easy. We'll go through and figure this out. For frequency, it's just telling us how many of times it happened. So it's just like what we did up here with the dots. So for this one, that's at 2. This is 3. This is 8. 3 again, and 2.